Hey, I'm really excited to have Callie on my podcast. I was just on hers a few weeks ago, so I'm going to let Callie introduce herself.
Thanks. Hey, I'm happy to be here. So, my name is Callie. I am 30. I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania, so like an hour outside of Philly. I am a registered dietitian specializing in bladder conditions like interstitial cystitis, overactive bladder, pelvic floor dysfunction, things like that. Personally, I have dealt with all of those conditions that I just mentioned and also vulvodynia throughout my life. So, yeah, that's kind of like the surface level stuff. I can definitely go deeper if you need.
Okay, my first question to you is when were you diagnosed with IC and vulvodynia?
So, great question. I've told this story probably 1,000 times, so I'm going to try to keep it to the important stuff and not drag on and on. So, as far back as I can remember, I always had bladder pain. So, I would have burning pain when I urinated. So during and after urination, like it would get worse after I peed. So I usually would like delay peeing as long as possible or until I was home and comfortable. So, and that also did me no favors. That's just my way of coping as a kid and a teenager. Um, saw a couple pediatricians in my childhood. Nothing came of it. So I just decided I'm gonna adapt. I'm gonna suck it up because no one's really helping me here. And when I was 18 years old, I my mom helped me book a urologist appointment and I went to this older woman urologist office and it was not a great experience, but that's when I was diagnosed with IC. She also had me do a cystoscopy with hydrodistension, which that procedure ended up making me worse. But my cystoscopy showed nothing. My bladder looks completely healthy. And that's really confusing to hear when you have like 24/7 burning pain. Feel like you have a UTI. And I had one really bad UTI in high school, but really there's maybe a couple others. But other than that, I didn't have like chronic UTIs at all. So after the hydrodistension, I developed urgency and frequency. I felt like my bladder held like nothing at all and it was going to explode all the time. I just was always known as the girl who had to pee at college, which sucked because I had a roommate and I had to share a bathroom and it's just not great. And then I was diagnosed with OAB, overactive bladder. And along my journey in college of like getting treatment for those conditions, I also was somebody at some point diagnosed me with vulvodynia after doing a Q-tip test. And I mean, looking back, I've definitely had vulvodynia my whole life. I remember when I was a kid, it it would hurt the outside, so the vulva area would burn when I peed. Like when the urine touched the skin is when it would hurt, and that's like a
Mhm.
classic sign of vulvodynia. So yeah, I mean, I struggled with that for so long. I couldn't. I mean, I would wear. I mean, I grew up in the age of like skinny jeans in the 2000s, and you know that age, and that was hell for my bladder and pelvic floor. And yeah, I mean, as an athlete too, it was definitely a struggle. Played a bunch of sports and continued in college. And yeah, there's a lot of different layers to my story, but I ended up getting relief maybe when I was 25, 26. I had already started like my business and started working with people. And I started to learn more about my conditions and how I can help myself. And through helping other people, I ended up actually really helping myself. And ever since, then I've been fairly symptom free. I consider myself healed from all of these conditions. And yeah, I just, sorry, I took your question and I just gave you all of it.
No, that's okay. Thank you for elaborating and explaining like your history with IC and vulvodynia and explaining kind of the struggles that you had with it. I think it's definitely hard, like you mentioned, to live a normal life when you have all these symptoms, and it's difficult when you are the person that always has to pee or you can't wear things and feel comfortable. My next question is that why you started the community Road to Remission? And what are some things that you've changed with your program over time when you've learned like new things with like nervous system like regulation and all of those things?
Yeah. So when I became a dietitian in maybe 2018, 2019 ish. And I was working in the hospital. I was bouncing around from like inpatient. I did everything. I did oncology, diabetes, and everything you could ever imagine. I was like a floater. And then I ended up getting like what I thought was my dream job at the time, which was an outpatient weight management position. And that I was helping people that were getting like surgical weight loss. Long story short, that job led me to develop an eating disorder.
Mm.
So I knew I needed to make a change. And the COVID pandemic hit around that time, which really weird blessing in disguise for me because I got furloughed and I had to figure out where to go from there. Did I want to, try to wait and go back to that job, or I really didn't like it at all. Like it's just not for me. And I came across on Instagram, so there was a business coach and she was having like a master class, and she marketed to dietitians who wanted to like leave the hospital, basically me, and start their own business. So, I paid her to basically help me start my program, my business. And actually Road to Remission started like right away when I jumped into this area. When I started out, I was very pro IC diet. I don't want to say I pushed it on people, but I definitely like I would have my clients when they joined, they would jump right into an elimination diet. And, we weren't really considering the mental or emotional effects of this diet and just all of the restrictions put on us when you get diagnosed with conditions like these. And so we've redone Road to Remission. I think this is our fourth version, and it is so different. If you ask people who joined back in like 2020 versus now, they'd be like, holy crap, this is so different. Because now we worked with over like maybe close to 300 people now. And we've learned that not that many people are diet sensitive. Like they come in thinking they are, but then they learn that they're really not, or they have diet sensitivities, and they can basically heal those through the work that we're doing. And we've just realized, when I say we, me and Beverly, my support dietitian, we've realized how powerful the nervous system is, how big of a role it plays in these conditions and bladder health. Also, so many other chronic conditions like IBS, chronic migraines, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. The list goes on and on. And there was a day maybe 3 years ago when Grace came on my podcast. That's our nervous system therapist for anyone who doesn't know. And she came on my podcast. It was my first time talking to her. And she basically just gave me the whole rundown of the pain science and the nervous system. And that was like that was probably the most important day for me. That changed everything for me. The wheels were turning in my head. I was like, yes, that is 100% me. And that is 100% most of my clients that you're talking about right here. So after that, we started adjusting the program to be more nervous system focused. Like we had Grace create a 3-part nervous system series, but we were still having people work on their diet. So this time around, like a year ago, we released the newest version, and Beverly, Grace, and I were like, the IC diet is doing more damage than good. These restrictions are hurting people more than they're helping people. And people may fight me on that. Someone was trying to fight me on Facebook today over this. And I'm just like,
Uh,
nothing new to me. I'm always getting into drama on social media, but I'm like the only person, like I'm the only like active IC dietitian right now. There was one other, but I think she retired. And like there's nobody else to speak up in this space. So I do put a lot of pressure on myself to educate people, talk about how the IC diet really doesn't have strong evidence backing it up. I mean, we've, as a community, we've done our best, but this is something that is really difficult to study. And what we noticed was the more food fear people had or stress and anxiety surrounding food, that would be triggering to their symptoms. And so they would think the food was triggering them, but it really was their nervous system. And now we have everyone in the program do a 6-week nervous system series that Grace teaches. And people are getting some really, really good results from it. Like we have people who get significant relief in a matter of like 2 weeks. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of the time it takes longer than that. This is just like a couple people, but it is truly amazing. Like when people jump in and they realize they have a plan, they have support, it's like a 50-pound weight drops off their shoulders and their stress response, it calms down, and then their physical symptoms calm down.
I love your explanation of the program, and I love how it evolved from one job that was, similar but in a way not, and how COVID was something, it was hard, but I'm glad you found a positive out of it. And I first want to say I've been in the program for a year. I know I've talked about this on your podcast and I've talked about it in my other episodes, but I can't stop talking about it because it's changed my life. I know it's changed a lot of people's lives, even yours. And I'm so grateful that you decided to take the plunge and start Road to Remission. And I love that you're open to change and that you adapted it. And even when I started a year ago, you changed a lot of it, and I love the Circle app. I love the way you have it now. You were, even whenever it was the website, it was still really helpful, and you were able to kind of be like, "Hey, do you need help with this or help with that?" So I loved that. I think it's also really great that you have Grace, who also has her own program, but she also gives you that 6 week thing. So like when you enter in yours, you don't have to necessarily go on like in her program, which if you do, that's still great too. But just having that 6 week course is just really eye opening. It was eye opening for me. And I think the IC diet, I love that you're advocating and saying, hey, like this is not something that is going to work. It doesn't really work. And I'm not saying not to diet to a certain point for people out there. I'm not saying that. It's good to be healthy. But I think it's good that you mentioned it's causing people eating disorders. It's causing stress, and that you recognize that in your program it wasn't effectively working in the way that you wanted, and you guys were able to sit down and revamp it, which is great because you have to be open to change and open to seeing what's working and what's not. And in the medical field, unfortunately, a lot of people get dismissed. They do get the IC diet and then they don't know what to do. I remember I told you in the beginning of the program that when my urologist handed me that paper, I felt defeated. I had already been struggling with food since I was young. I didn't have an eating disorder. I had the opposite where I would overeat when I was feeling down, but then I also started to be anxious about the food I was eating because I'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to eat this and it's going to make my IC worse." So I still can understand why people would get an eating disorder and how it even caused me food fear. And I even still struggle with that now. But being in the program, I was so grateful that you told me, like, let's just focus on your nervous system, because I was scared that I was going to join the program and be like, oh my gosh, it's only going to be focused on the diet. But for the people out there, it's not. It's based on what suits you and what is going to help you to thrive, because we don't want to stress ourselves out. We don't want to make it worse for ourselves. So I thank you for that. And I appreciate you explaining more about the program. My next question is, what free resources do you have?
Yeah. I mean, I have some thoughts on the last topic if it's cool that I go through those before we switch. Is that all
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, I mean, we're as a team, like we're always trying to bring our members the most up to date information, whether that's new research or whether that's our professional observations, like what we're finding or learning from our clients. And yeah, we're always just trying to evolve. I never want to stay the same, especially if change means that people are going to get results faster. I'm all about it, because it took me over 2 decades to get relief. So, if I can get someone relief in 3 months or less, like, great. If it might not be full relief, but like an ounce of relief, I love that. So yeah, and I know that for some of our earlier members, it was a huge change. Like, going from me being pro IC diet to me being kind of anti IC diet, that's a huge change. And I understand why people are like, okay, what the hell is going on with you? But it's just, I have to adapt, I have to evolve, and yeah, we're always working to do that. Like, Beverly and I recognize that as dietitians, we didn't have that nervous system or therapy background, which is why we brought Grace in. But we realized we could actually get certified in pain reprocessing therapy. So both Beverly and I got certified in that in the past year, and now we're more equipped to help our clients deal with the nervous system stuff, because before I just felt like, well, what do I know? I'm not Grace. But yeah, now Beverly and I are more comfortable answering those types of questions on group calls. I mean, Grace has like that once a month group coaching call, which is fantastic. But, Beverly and I are the ones that are showing up every week to, do group coaching. So that was important. I had another thought and I totally lost it, but if I remember, I will come back. But I will answer your question now. So, free resources. First thing would be my podcast, ICU. So it's IC space YOU. I started that back in like 2021, and I'm not gonna lie, the first 2 seasons, like I can't even go back and listen to them. Like, part of me has wanted to delete most of those episodes just because of how much my mindset and beliefs have changed. But I just leave them be and pretend they don't exist just in case they help people. So yeah, we're now up to season 5, and I think we're at 121 episodes as of right now, which is great. I'm not much of a solo podcaster. Like, I'll do it once in a while, but I don't like it. I prefer to interview people. So there's so much information there. Lately, I've been doing a lot of nervous system conversations, mind body conversations, and those are really helpful. We interview PTs and just anyone that I feel like can bring expertise and help people, I'll have them on. And then outside of that, my social media, I mean, I'm constantly grinding to create content. I post every day on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I always tell people, if you want to see me lean into my humor more, follow me on TikTok. If you want a little bit more polished content, light on the humor, Instagram is where it's at. Yeah, so those are there, and then I put all my podcasts on YouTube as well. So I have a YouTube channel. It's just kind of like recycled content. There's not really anything new there, but if people would rather see my face while I'm talking, that's there. I have a blog that I really do not do well with keeping up with, but there is information there. Yeah, I would say those are the main things that people can check out for free if you want to like learn from me. And I don't think did I miss anything there? Do you know of any resources? There's a lot.
Didn't you say something? No, well, is the master class just like you explaining the program?
I do have a master class. Good job. Yes. So I have a master class that anybody can watch at any time. So it's called like Evergreen. And that kind of explains like how to find your root cause and why. It's kind of just like an introduction to that work. And then I am hosting a free masterclass in 2 weeks. I don't know if you're going to air this right away, but I'm doing 2 sessions. It's called it's called Get Bladder Relief by Summer. And I'm going to be kind of going through the same type of thing, but more so digging into the nervous system work, not work. Like presenting the science and different tips, like how people can get started on this journey. So that, yeah, that's March 31st and April 1st. I have 2 times now because it's so difficult to get everybody there live when I have followers from all over the world. It's like, can never
Mhm.
win in terms of that. But yeah, so that one masterclass is always available. And then I have like every 2-3 months, I'll do a live one.
Okay, that's really awesome. I love that you have all these great like social media platforms and like different vibes. I really enjoy your TikTok. It makes me laugh a lot. It's so fun to have someone I can relate to that understands because not everybody's been through this, and I feel like once you go through it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's me, or I've been through that myself. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly when I'll share it yet, but I'll definitely let you know. Now, question, in on the Riverside app, in the corner, it says 99%. Is that like the
That's fine.
connection?
That's normal.
Oh, okay. I
You're
was
good.
like, did I run out of storage
No,
already?
you're good.
For anyone listening, I'm still new at this and I'm using my phone, and I'm hoping to evolve and eventually get a laptop and have more storage so I don't have to stress, but I feel like I'm trying to teach myself as I go, so don't mind me.
There's a learning curve. This platform confuses me. I don't even use a microphone anymore because it somehow doesn't work. So I hope I sound okay. But yeah, I think you're doing a great job with your podcast so far.
Thank you. I think you do a great job too, and I like that you're very laid back about stuff because I think that makes things better when you're going through this journey in general, but also just with technology. And oh my word, I'm trying to learn how to calm down myself because I want to be able to show everyone out there that you can start something, and like you said, you can build on it and just go with the punches, man. Like you said, the microphone, just because it doesn't work doesn't mean you can't pop one and be like, hey everybody, don't let that stop you from doing something that you really want to do.
Yeah, you just reminded me of I was listening to Grace's podcast yesterday and she said something that I wrote down because I was like, this is very powerful. She was saying, ready is a feeling the nervous system in a threat response will never give you. So basically, you'll never feel ready to do something, whether that's address your nervous system or start a podcast or literally anything you could insert into this. Like there's never going to be that perfect time to start. You kind of and most of us are perfectionists. We want to go into it and do it perfectly and heal right away. And that's very human. That's a protective trait our nervous system has adopted to keep us safe. But the first step there is being aware of that tendency and kind of letting that pressure go to be perfect, because you can still accomplish so much even if it's not perfect.
I feel so strongly. Like I like that what Grace said. It's very inspirational and it is a good reminder because I think I, even in your program, didn't realize how bad my perfectionism is. I mean, I even popped on today at one of our regular group calls, and it was the first I've been on in a while, and I already felt at home again. For one, for anyone who, if they do decide to join, it's really like a home. But two, it's also just a good reminder sometimes, like, oh, I was thinking this way. Maybe I am being a little bit hard on myself. And like you, Callie, even said to me, like, oh, no one's thinking that, because I brought up some of my worries and concerns. So for anyone who may feel like they're a bit hard on themselves, it does get better. You do start to be more aware of your unhealthy, I don't want to say unhealthy habits, but you start to become more aware of your nervous system and what phase you're in, and you start to track things better. And the first step to me is being aware, but the second step is self compassion, which is a really hard one that I've still been working on because it's not going to happen overnight. And for some people, it might be an easier transition, but I think it's a good reminder too that it's going to take time and it's not going to look the same every day. Callie, can you relate to that?
Absolutely. I have a ton of protective traits that have primed me for neuroplastic pain. I'm a perfectionist, and I used to not think I was a perfectionist, but as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it now. Because I just want to do everything perfectly. And like when I'm like creating content, it all has to look perfectly in my brain. And I'm like, it actually doesn't. So I'm learning as I go, but I have people pleasing tendencies. I just posted about that the other day. Like I'm in the Costco line getting all worked up about what if I look stupid as I'm scanning my card? People are waiting for me and they're looking at me and like maybe I look weird and then I don't drive away fast enough. Like it literally affects every second of my life. And that is why I do so much therapy. But yeah, a lot of our clients, I will say, those tendencies, being like a type A personality, wanting to be in control of everything, wanting to fix things, like fix your health, fix whatever, if there's a problem in your relationship, like those are some really common protective traits that our nervous system, you know, creates, adopts, whatever you want to call it, to keep us safe, to protect us. And I always say, like, these things are super annoying, but once you learn to like know them and understand them, you can start to work with them rather than against them. Because I think a lot of people with bladder issues, we resent our body, we resent our bladder, we hate our bladder. And I mean, that's human. That's very normal and valid. And I think the biggest change, or a helpful change for me, was to be kind to my body and understand that it was just trying to tell me something all along. Like I was a high anxiety child. I grew up in a house with a mom who was very anxious and critical, and just some things. Like I had a really great childhood, but there are some things underneath that do come up and have stuck with me. And that's something a lot of people are surprised by. We'll be talking about like their symptoms being neuroplastic or mind body. That doesn't mean, for anybody listening, that doesn't mean your symptoms aren't real. It doesn't mean they're in your head. Pain originates in your brain, and I just recommend learning more about pain science. And I definitely suggest, I'm just going to drop some book names if anybody wants to read and learn more. I also have podcast episodes about it, but if you're a reader, Mind Your Body by Nicole Sachs is great. The Way Out by Alan Gordon was great. And then the Pain Reprocessing Therapy Workbook is great. I've read it 3 times now. It's fantastic. I kind of lost my train of thought there, Landy. Do you remember where I was going with that?
You were just naming off some really good resources. With oh my, I'm just as bad. But
No, oh wait. I was talking about the protective traits. So yeah, you can learn more about these in the PRT, Pain Reprocessing Therapy Workbook. That's the best place where I learned about it. And then I went on to do the training and learned even more about it. And I just see these traits come up so often in our road to remission clients. And I can almost predict it. Like when people are telling me their story, it's like, okay, they either had symptoms that popped up out of nowhere, but when we dig, there was something there, something traumatic, stressful, whatever that may look like. Or that it starts after like a UTI that was treated and then the symptoms stuck around for a while and pelvic floor dysfunction developed. So we're getting to the point where it's a bit predictable, but I think that's a good thing. Like we're able to identify that quickly on our first like coaching call, and then we can really be like, yeah, your symptoms are really presenting as neuroplastic or mind body, and really dedicate the next 6+ weeks to the nervous system work and come to group calls and implement what you're learning. And that's when people start to really notice results. Yeah, I think that's where I'll end that.
A lot of good information. Once again, all those books are really good. I was in, Callie does a lot of cool book clubs in the, oh my brain, the program. And I've joined a few, and we're actually going to be doing the PRT book. Did I say that right?
Yeah, we're doing the PRT workbook again because back by popular demand, the people love it.
Yes, I'm excited. I think I'm going to join again because I really like book club altogether to begin with, whatever we're talking about. But I feel like I haven't read it in a while and I would like to reread it with you guys again because I think I'll process it better that way. Even if there's a time where I can't actively engage, I still even will just listen because there's so much good information that you can even get from other people that you might not have even remembered reading or didn't look at it that way. So I'm excited to dive into that book again.
That's why I love book club. It's because different people like you have different takeaways than someone else, and if you share that your perspective, then that person sees another perspective. And I do learn things from a lot of people on these calls, and I think a lot of people learn from me. Like, I try to make these bladder connections. I try to make it, like, put it in like bladder pelvic health terms, because it's a book that can help with any chronic condition. So trying to like give examples and, say how I relate to it, and then somebody else is thinking, oh, I had a situation that was similar to that, like, oh, that kind of like really like resonates with people.
Yeah, I think too, for me, like I know we dived in a little bit of this conversation when I was on your podcast was just it's not just about, the nervous system stuff. It's not just about the books that we read, but it's like you said, it's the different perspectives and it's recognizing that maybe something I did and learned in the program or maybe just in my life might help somebody else in the group call. Like today, we had a few of the ladies who brought up a certain topic and we were able to talk to them about a variety of different things. And sometimes you never know where it's going to go, and I know I bring it up a lot, but that's what I love about the program and I love about you, Callie, is just being able to talk about, yes, the pelvic stuff and all of that, but it's also just in general and the traits and the, I don't know, like it's just anything. There's no TMI, and it's a really great place to go. Like I was even struggling today with needing some more interaction socially, and sometimes with my schedule I don't always get to go out and do things. So I was like, I need to get on, and as soon as I got on and we started talking, I felt really like just a million times better, just knowing that you got my back. We're a team.
The calls make my days so much better, and I am always surprised by it, and I'm just like, I don't get it, because everybody in this program that shows up to these calls, everyone is so fantastic. And like, what differentiates this community from like Facebook groups, Reddit threads, is we all believe that relief is possible for us, for everyone else, and we are going to cheer everybody on no matter what. We all know that our journey is going to be different than the next person. And I just think it is a beautiful community of women. I would love to expand and like create a men's program one day, but right now we have a self-study version that men can participate in. Besides the point. But yeah, I just think when you have these conditions, like, you get handed this diet handout. So okay, now I can't eat everything that I like. Okay, now I need to do these like invasive treatments that may not even work. I have to go on all these supplements, and there's just so much that is up in the air, and that's scary, and that's frustrating and confusing. And if you're doing it alone, like I did it alone for 23 years. Like, I didn't know anybody with any similar condition to me, and I felt so alone, and like I would never get relief. But once I started creating this community and talking with other people, it's just like incredible what a group can like help with, and like what it can bring out of people.
I think like the biggest thing for me, like stemming from like the diet and just the diagnosis, when you do feel alone and you're doing it alone, it doesn't help either when you have outside people or sources that mean well, but they say things and it can just really make your nervous system worse. Like I had a lady who had a correlating condition to mine. And she told me that I just had to suck it up and I had to deal with it, and that's what she does. But she was always in pain and always in fear mode, and I'm not judging her, but that just really stung me for a long time because I'm like, I just got this diet that told me I have to, like you said, stop eating all the things I love. I was struggling with it. It was impossible to follow for me personally. And then I have a doctor who you like you said is giving me invasive procedures. I'm being tossed around everywhere, being told literally the same thing. Spending all this money to be told literally the same thing, and then having people just rudely say, "Well, just take a supplement." Or I don't understand why you are like doing this or that. Cranberry juice. Like I've had so many things be said to me, and it's not that I'm trying to be critical of those people because maybe in their own way, they just don't understand and they're trying to help. But sometimes I think people forget that when it feels impossible, and then you add on those other like comments, it doesn't help your nervous system, and it definitely made it worse for me.
Well, and that's the danger of social media. I Someone just sent me a video on TikTok yesterday and was like, "This made me think of you." And it was a guy being like, "You shouldn't eat oxalates. Foods high in oxalates." It's like fruits and vegetables, and this is not anything new. Like, there's a lot of people. There's a whole community basically on that believes you shouldn't eat oxalates, and it's just crazy to me because somebody who's suffering and they're desperate and they'll do anything. It's like, okay, now all of a sudden you see this video, someone's telling you to now remove more from your diet. Like, we're most of us are willing to do that if it means relief, but that's the danger of social media. A lot of the stuff that's being passed around is not evidence based.
No, it's kind of scary. Like, because sometimes I'll be scrolling through TikTok and I'll come to one of your videos and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll watch it and it'll be like uplifting. But then I'll come upon this like random doctor from wherever that's like, oh, well, if you have IC, you could have an embedded UTI, or you could try doing the microbiome tester. I forget what it was.
Nitrogen test.
Yeah. And that you have all these poor women commenting like, "Will this help me? I feel miserable." And I'm just like, I can't look at those videos. I have to say not interested because I'll go down that rabbit hole again. And I'm like, "No, I have this program. I have all these awesome things. I don't need to look at that." But for the people out there, please don't let them bring you down or make you think that you can't get relief. Um, it is possible, and you don't have to do all these things to figure it out, because yeah, maybe sometimes some of the medical stuff can help, but it's not going to permanently fix it necessarily, because you have to get to the root cause.
Yeah, a lot of these things are band-aid solutions, which, no judgment. If you need short-term relief, I get it, but just understand that a lot of these things are just covering up your symptoms and not actually addressing what's causing them, which, like we keep talking about, a dysregulated nervous system is so common, and it'll cause the pelvic floor to tense up. So then that leads to pelvic floor dysfunction. It can lead to like gut health issues. It could lead to so many different things. So, that's why it's really important to take a look at your nervous system. And it's so much more than just like meditating and breathing. And like, I feel like that's a huge misconception. There's so much more to it. And, we don't have time to get into all of that. But, I've come to learn exactly what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And it's probably completely different than what works for you.
Yeah, I feel like too I've had even people comment on my stuff and kind of fight me about it, and I don't want anyone to feel like I'm trying to be better than them or I'm trying to fight them. I just know what has helped me, and I know all of our journeys are going to look different, but I don't want people to think I'm saying that it's all in their head. because I had someone comment that, and I'm like, no, 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 that's not what we're saying. Yeah, it's a mind body connection, but it is real symptoms. You are really feeling this. This isn't something you made up in your head. So I want to say that for the people who've commented, and I'm like, I recognize that what you're saying, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that your mind and your body are very connected, and when something like when you're going through the different nervous system phases, like fight or flight, you can have actual symptoms. So I just wanted to say that because I've had people be like, what are you trying to say? And that's not what I'm trying to say.
I know it's tough with social media because I fully understand how, like, if this is your first exposure to something like this, like, you could take it that way. And that is why we always, validate your pain is real, your symptoms are valid. No one's saying that you're making it up or you're crazy or any of that. Like, I straight up felt like I had a UTI for 20 years. Like, I wasn't making it up. No, there wasn't any structural damage in my bladder. I had a completely normal bladder, but my nervous system was so upregulated. I was stuck in fight or flight since I was a kid. And, my pelvic floor was just so tight. I struggled with IBS. I struggled with bladder issues. And, yes, my pelvic floor, getting that addressed in PT was a helpful part of this, but the most helpful thing was addressing my nervous system. And that part is not done. That is a daily thing that I'm always working on. Like I said, I do a lot of therapy. I was diagnosed with OCD 2 years ago, and I'm just jumping into OCD specific therapy now. And yeah, just the grind to never stop working on myself. It's always there.
Yeah, I think that was also well said. I'm glad that you're able to work with someone on your OCD, and thank you for being so vulnerable about that. For anyone out there who does struggle with OCD, please know that it's okay for you to ask for help, and it's okay for you to have your own timing. And I think it is really important to know that this nervous system work is something that is a lifelong thing, but don't let it overwhelm you. Take it slow, because once you actually understand what's going on in your body and it starts to click, it takes time, to have that acceptance, but also to get into a routine of doing not just meditation, but recognizing when you're having these cues where you need safety. It's been taking me, it's a year, and I've told Callie today that I feel like I'm healed, because even though I still have symptoms, I feel like I'm in a much better place. But I even am still struggling with the nervous system work because I keep trying to do it like checking off a list, because that's what I'm used to doing, and I'm like, no, 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 like slow down, Landy, slow
It's
down.
hard. These are like lifelong habits that we have. And I struggle in the same ways. Like, I am always catching my thoughts and I'm like, no, no. This is a valid thought process, but we want to change this. So challenging it. I think the most powerful example I was given, or comparison, whatever you want to call it, from Vanessa Blackstone. She's one of the authors of the PRT workbook. She told me that when you're rewiring your brain, you can look at it like a hiking path. Like, what you're used to doing, that trail is going to be like totally clear. There's like no grass, there's no nothing, and very obvious that that's the way. But when you're trying to create a new habit or you're trying to change something about yourself, like, you're basically paving a new pathway. You're going to have to walk over that grass like 100 times for it to start to develop that path. So that example, I don't know why, I really love to visualize it.
I always think of, I think it was in the PRT book, but I don't remember exactly because I get them all mixed up. But there was about like when you're walking on a path and you think you see something dangerous, so your body is like freezing or becoming, like alert. And so you're preparing and you're bracing for this. So your body tenses up. You start to have those symptoms, and you think it's, for example, you think it's a bear, and so you're preparing, and it ends up just being like a cat or another human or
One time I
literally.
thought a rock was a raccoon. So yeah, you feel very silly afterwards.
But I always remember that, and I literally am one of those people that I always think someone's trying to break in my house. And like I live, for like an idea for anyone that doesn't know me, I live in Pennsylvania, and I live in rural. a rural town. And I was just saying today about how I live by the Amish. So, for the most part, it's pretty safe here, but I'm always just like on alert. I'm like, oh my gosh, someone breaks in, I'm going to have to hide my animals. I'm going to have to do all this stuff. So, like, I can totally relate to that when I think the worst case scenario. And I'm like, oh, okay.
If someone breaks into my house, they are not finding my animals. They're so good at hiding.
I would just have to release my pig and then he'd have to run somewhere. That's all I could think is go to my neighbor's because she has a farm. Like the most random stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's anxiety talking. Just, going down that thought loop and all the what ifs. I do it all the time. It's exhausting sometimes.
When you said about like going to the grocery store and like wondering if people were like watching you in line and stuff, that's literally like my mind everywhere I go. And so I've had to keep working on it because I'll think, oh my gosh, that person probably thinks I'm weird because I do this, this, and that. Like that happens with when I go line dancing because like I'll mess up a move and I'll think everyone's looking at me and they're like, oh my gosh, she can't dance. But really, everyone's just paying attention to themselves.
Yeah. No, I've identified that is like I deal with the same type of thoughts, and I've connected that, like, growing up with critical parents. Like, I grew up in the age where, like, do you ever see the videos on TikTok where it's like the mom talking about like your friend and she like says, the heavy set one, and like
Yes.
whispers it? Like that's like the type of language that I grew up with. So I'm not like still as an adult judging people for that type of thing, but I think knowing that my parents would have those thoughts about people made me think other people are going to think those things about me, but they're not. And even if they are, that's a them problem.
Well, yeah, I even in the program, I've had to learn that not everything I think is real. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or that my thoughts are silly. I used to think that I used to be like, I'm the only person that, you get into that self-blame and you think you're the only person, and that's not true. We all go through stuff. And I think as you get older and you progress in this work, you learn that. But I think I just spent so long in that mind frame that even now I have more of an understanding now though. So like if I have that thought, I'm like, okay, that's not logical. That's not true. I'm going to be kind to myself. But before I didn't have that echo in my mind going, "Oh, Landy, what if that's not true? What if that's not happening?" And I had parents that are, my dad was very critical of everything and he spent his whole life just in an emotional uproar. So I learned to be constantly scanning for danger, constantly walking on eggshells. And so going out into a different environment and learning all this stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in a lot of trauma and I didn't even realize it at times. So yeah, it's definitely eye-opening.
Yeah, for sure. I can see so much change in you in a year. Like you're so different now, and it's all good things. Um, and I hope you're noticing these things in yourself. I know it's hard when you're in it to realize like all of these wins that you're having, and it's just hard when you're doing the work and day by day. Like that's like when actually that example is not helpful. Yeah, but I just sorry. I just wanted to point out, like, yeah, you've made so much progress in a year, whether you have seen it or not. Like I've seen it.
I appreciate that. I can never thank you enough for just all of it. I just really appreciate it and I'm so glad that like I said I joined the program and I took that leap because I don't think I would be where I am now. I'm not saying that I couldn't have come across, your free resources, but for me that's what worked best is joining the program.
Yeah. I think what stops a lot of people is the investment that is required. But when you really think about it, I mean, you've been here for a year now, the value that you're getting, we're helping people so that they no longer have symptoms and they no longer need all of these medical visits and copays and medications and supplements and all of that. Like it is all expensive. And so, when you join Road to Remission, you're getting lifetime support. We're always going to be there for people. Like as long as I'm alive, I'm going to be here. Um, supporting people. And, we're constantly trying to improve the program and adding classes, adding resources. And yeah, I mean, I know that you hesitated for a while. Like, now that you're on the other side of this, would you say it was a worthwhile investment?
I do. I didn't realize how much it was going to change my life. I mean, I knew that I was desperate, first of all, because like many of us, we feel at our last limit. We feel like we have no other options, and we really don't sometimes. When you've tried all these things and it doesn't work, you feel like you're going to be stuck like this forever. And when I was watching you on TikTok over the years, I was always like, well, what if she's just another one of those, people who's
What if
promising
I'm a
something.
scammer?
Yeah, and investing that amount of money is something that you want to make sure you're putting it in something good. And I know a lot of people in the world can't always afford, you know, but that's where I was. I was like, I don't want to invest this money and then end up being like another waste of time. And my husband was also like protective of me. He's like, well, make sure you do
Totally.
your research because I don't want you to go into a program and be disappointed or, invest this money. And he even says he sees it like a change in me. And I I smile more. He said to me the other day about how he feels like I handle things better. Now, I mean, I have my moments. Last night I was probably a bit dramatic and my husband, he gave me a hug and he's like, "You're going to be okay. You know what to do." And I'm like, "I know, but right now this feels like the end of the world. So don't think I'm saying I'm perfect." But I feel like even on those bad days, I can still have in the back of my mind, "You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine." And I know how to redirect myself to the right direction. So I would say it for me it was definitely worth the investment. I definitely was skeptical, but even from the first call with you guys, I could just tell that it was going to be a really good opportunity for me.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess like if anybody's hoping I'm not a scammer, like even after this, check out my free resources, check out my masterclass. Twice a year, we host an open house where you can meet me, Beverly, and Grace, and you can talk to some of our clients. And yeah, I just want people to feel comfortable, when joining our community. I always say, don't expect this to be like the magic fix. You're going to have to put work in and be as consistent as possible and like not ghost everybody when things aren't going great. You have to really lean into the support. But, if you're willing to do that and you're motivated, like yeah, we will help you.
Yes, I strongly encourage anyone who's listening to not give up. Um, Check out the books that we talked about today. Make sure you're doing some self-care. Don't forget to tune in to Callie's podcast if you're not quite able to financially invest in the program. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me or Callie, and I am more than willing to help you to kind of give you information. And I really hope if you are considering joining her program that you do, because I think it'll be life changing.
And you can be friends. I feel like everyone in the program like makes friends, and I think it's so cute when I hear that people are like talking on the side. Like when you had Faith on your podcast, I was like, "That's so great! I love that."
Yeah, it was like as soon as she like joined, I reached out to her and I was like, if you ever need anything, I'm here. And just the wisdom that she has and the way she carries herself, and every single person in the program, no matter how different we are, everyone is just so wonderful. And no one is, ever going to make you feel bad in any way. Like it's a very safe place, and all of us can understand how hard it can be. So yeah, it's a really great, it's basically like a family. And I enjoy all of my interactions with each person, and I'm excited to have Shayna on, and I'm excited to see all the other clients that come on your podcast. So yeah, it's just a great thing all around.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Landy said, I am available if anybody has questions. Yeah, but thanks for having me on this podcast, Landy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's going to be a really good episode, and I think everyone's going to really take something from it.
I agree. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in to Surviving and Thriving, and can't wait for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.